Hello, I'm Grace Davey of Vermont Farmers Food Center, here to talk about our pharmacy project and cook with what we have in our winter monthly share this month. It's Thursday, it's a gray day, definitely a day to have the oven on baking. We're going to be doing some freestyle pies called galettes, where it's just filled with whatever your favorite veggies are. Jazz them up, and then we're just going to make a simple butter crust and kind of fold it over the veggies. Farmacy Project is a program where participants get a referral from a healthcare provider to the program, and they are prescribed a share of vegetables. In the summer, we do it weekly, and in the winter, we do it monthly. And this month we had some really nice purple, green, and Savoy cabbage heads, sweet potatoes, onions, garlic, some winter squash, and I don't even remember what else we had. Oh, garlic, very important thing as well. So today I just roasted some tiny little potatoes I had kicking around. Some of the Savoy cabbage, because it's one of my favorite things, and some tiny little onions. And then I have some here as well, and I have a pumpkin roasting in the oven. And we're just kind of put flavors together, that like veggies that we like together, like cabbage and onions and potatoes all go really well. Roasted cabbage, I brought a little bit of blue cheese I had from home, and I was going to throw some kale to it as well. And then I have one tomato. Still my very last tomato, and I'll probably throw that in with the pumpkin one as well. So let's get cooking. For the crust, I have just 1.5 cups of flour. A nice thing to do with crust too is instead of that 1/2 cup, you could throw in some like crushed up nuts, even some grated cheese would be nice. Anything that you like. You could also add like a 1/4 cup of like quinoa flour to kind of bring in a different flavor, or buckwheat flour. Just kind of experiment around 1/4 cup by 1/4 cup until you get like a good blend that you like as well. I'm just doing a basic white flour. I was looking for whole wheat pastry flour, which is pretty interchangeable, or like a white spelt. But I didn't see either of those. Another thing to use would be, my favorite for pie crust is whole spelt flour. I do that like 3/4 cup to 3/4 cup with white flour, and that just has like a really nice flavor. Spelt has kind of like a sourdoughy flavor in a way. It's like just a delicious, wonderful grain. But it does have gluten, so it's not a gluten-free thing if that is what you're worried about. So let me check on this pumpkin here. Okay, it's looking good, but I'm just gonna, pumpkin can take a long time to cook, so it's been in there for a while. So I just cut up some little baby onions, because they're always kind of a pain to cook with, so I like to use them first. And I'm gonna just heat up a little bit of oil in this pan. And I think the cool thing with this pharmacy project is that the more, like each month people learn more and more with the bags. And we've all talked about like, oh, we liked this vegetable a lot or that one. And I don't know, I think that people are like, oh, kale and sweet potatoes, like I really like those together. And it's cool to just see how like the more that you eat, the more of an expert you become on what flavors you like and what you like to eat. So I think that's really cool too. All right, so that's heating up. And I brought some fun little goodies here, seasonings. Also with cabbage, even a Savoy is like a softer cabbage. I brought some chicken stock just to kind of help cook it down. It will be kind of cooking down in the pie shell as well, so, but I just brought it as an option. And at home, like if you're cooking a stir fry with cabbage and potatoes, you can also make it a softer, easier to chew flavor with some chicken stock in it. And then I have some really fun seasonings, some locally dried basil and marjoram and oregano. All right. Let's see, get that swirled around there. And then I'm just gonna turn this up to medium high. Now that I'm ready to get going, move the plastic away from the flame. And I'm just kind of trying to loosen these little guys as much as I can. And I do have some roasted onions over here on the baking sheet as well. But it's just nice to have different options. And also this is a cooking show, so it's good to show you as much as possible as well. So here is our onions. Okay, and I think I'm probably gonna put these in with the pumpkin. So I'm gonna add a little turmeric. And a little bit of cumin. I always add the powdered seasonings first to kind of cook in with the veggies like onions and carrots and things like that. And then I'll do my dried herbs later on when I'm finishing off the veggies. Okay. Just get these kind of tossed around in the oil. Salt is always important, just to help caramelize, pull out all of the flavors. It's funny, we are coming up on Thanksgiving time, and people start talking about turkey and how they like to cook it. At least in my office, we're the food center, so we talk about food a lot. And we've all been talking about how we like to brine it. And I always think brining a turkey is such a magical thing. Like, it never gets old to me. Just putting it in that solution hydrates it, even though it's salt. Like with the salt, like if we do a dry rub on a turkey with salt in it, like that will pull things out. But when we let it sit in a saltwater solution, it just keeps it moister, which I think is pretty magical. So, little offshoot thing there. All right, so those are going to take a while. Pie crust is super easy and fun and relaxing to make. It's like great if you come home, you want to decompress, like just rubbing your hands in cold butter in flour is a wonderfully relaxing thing to do. I'm going to just pull my sleeves up a little. So I've just got the flour. So what I don't know if this makes a difference, is what I like to do. Flour, when it's in the bag, when I very first opened the bag, it was caked in, as we know, to like match weight. So I just put my measuring cup into the bowl and sprinkled the flour in just to kind of fluff it up. And then I just kind of shook it around, and then I just added more. So you don't ever really want to pack the flour in. It's better to have it slightly mounded instead of packed, so that it has more air. And that's also why we whisk the flour too, just to kind of aerate it. And I'll do that too with the butter. Butter should always be cold in crust. If it's room temperature or softer, it'll just melt and burn. So the colder you can get your butter. Some people like to keep it in the freezer as well, especially in the summer. And I can be kind of nervous about it as well. So you just take your stick, cut it in half. Try not to handle it too much because of the warmth of your hands. And then you can, oh, I already messed up. So then you want to just quarter it again. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then you just quickly slice so you have lots of little cubes to work with. And then you just kind of sprinkle them in, break them up. You'll break them up with your hands too. And if you feel like your hands are really warm, you could rinse them in cold water if you wanted to. but also just putting your butter in the freezer is a good way to ensure the butter stays cold. And this is also, once you get the crumb going, let me just give this a quick stir. All right, now I'm going to add some cabbage to this as I quickly pivot. Break that up. My butter's melting. No, it's not. Add a little bit more oil. And then when this cabbage starts to wilt, I am going to put some chicken stock in there. Okay. I am going to put my hands in cold water. All right, and then I'm just going to kind of coat the butter in the flour. And then you just kind of break it up, smoosh it in there. Kids love baking, well, at least all the kids I know, and they love this step too because kids are very sensory, and this is just a really fun, it's fun to find like kid activities you can do as an adult, and I feel like cutting butter is one of them. They do have butter cutters, the tools with the little blades on them. It's like a wooden handle, the U shape. If you've ever seen those at a thrift store or something, that's a butter cutter. But I think this works really well too. And you just want it to get, they say pea size, you just want it to be like crumbs in here. And the more you get the butter mixed in, the better, but you also don't really want to overwork anything with flour. Wow, butter smells so good. This is such a fun time of year to make savory pies, not just because it's getting cooler out, but I tend to just have roast lots of vegetables and then just have them around. And that's a great way to repurpose, as we talked about in the last episode, repurposing leftovers, savory pies, quiches. That's always a nice way to just throw in any extra veggies you have. Especially in the winter, we could all use that extra vitamin boost. And vegetables are a delicious way to do that as well. All right, this is looking good. Crummy, like crummy crust. And this would be a great time to add in things like poppy seeds or things that won't affect the texture of the crust. Before you add the cold water to it as well. All right, I'm going to rinse my hands, add the stock. This also helps deglaze the pan so you get all those little delicious goodies that kind of caramelize on the bottom of the pan loose so that they fold back into the vegetables. I just want to find a lid, make a loud sound. Turn that down a bit. Actually pretty good. All right. So I need some cold water. Again, just like the butter's cold, we want to have cold water for the crust. And you just want to add a little bit by a little bit. So I'm just going to do a little bit there, stir it around, and just kind of gather it loosely. And I'm kind of fluffing up the flour as I go. And then I see I need a little bit more. Just tablespoon by tablespoon, really. It depends on the temperature of the room and the humidity in the room as well. If you have a really dry room that you're working in, you're going to need more water. Crust can be really finicky that way. It's generally about 1/4 cup though. And you just want it to kind of slowly gather together. All right. Woo, it's alive. All right, so that is all pulled together. You can see. Push that out of the way. Okay. And then I'm going to use this beautiful granite countertop, which is already nice and cool, so that's a great surface to be rolling out dough on. And I'm going to make 4 to 6 little balls out of the dough. You could do 1 large galette. I thought it'd be faster for the show and for y'all to break them up. So I'm just going to start breaking it in half and then in half again. So that's 4, and then I'm just going to try and eke out a few more here. And they should all be about the same size. All right, now I'm going to flour my countertop. Oh, I forgot to mention the butter to flour proportion. 1.5 cups of flour, 6 tablespoons of butter. And I made these a little bit bigger, so I used the whole stick. Just to eke out a little bit more. Sprinkling. Okay. Just gonna check on this again. Yep, that looks pretty done. Yeah. I need 2. So the pumpkin, I wanted it to cook pretty quickly, so I just quartered it there, you can see, and that does cook it faster if you're not in particular need of a certain shape of it. It does take a little bit more time to chop, but it saves time in cooking. All right, so I'm just going to take each disc and just sort of flatten it with the palm of my hand. Plenty of, I'm just going to make a little pile of flour just to have at the ready. Okay. Trusty old and then you just kind of want to keep feeling it with your hand and make sure it feels like it's a good even all over. And then just work it out into a shape that you can fold over easily. Okay. And you want it to be about 1/2 inch thick. So there's 1. All right, you can see this is cooked down quite a bit. It's looking good. So I'm just going to take that off heat. The other thing is we want all of these fillings to be cool when we put them in the press. So this one might not make it. But I have some hungry people I can beat with it too. All right. So I'm just letting these sit out on the countertop because I'm going to fold them over on the baking sheet so I don't have to transfer them and save some time. If you're making a really big galette, I would say, yeah, just definitely bring the baking sheet over, put your dough out, put your filling on, and then fold it up, and then you can just throw it right in the oven. And I've got the oven set to 375, which is what I roasted the veggies at, and that is the magic crust baking temperature as well. These are all pretty much the same size. This one looks a little, so I might go back over that one. And I've got these great veggies right here. So I've got potatoes, onions, and cabbage. And I also have some cheddar cheese. If you had some prepared mustard, that would also be really good. You could kind of build your filling. So I'm just going to take a bowl and just take a little bit of each. All of these things that I like. I did put some cumin and paprika on the veggies when I was roasting them, and some salt and pepper as well. Just mix it all up. Whatever you like to eat. Like if you wanted some nut crumbs in there, that would be really tasty. I'm just putting some cheddar cheese in because that makes my world go round. I love cheese. Okay. And then just a little handful with a bit of everything right in the middle. These are purple potatoes and white potatoes. And little bits of onion. So you can see I'm being pretty generous with the filling. The crust doesn't need to fold very tightly because it is a dry filling. It's not an egg-based quiche filling, so you can kind of keep them. So I just kind of press down, and then I'm just going to fold the crust over top. And then just kind of seal it up as I go there. And then you can create little pleats. You can make little designs. And these are a nice little hand pie too. You can just grab it and go. So there's one. I'm just going to scoot it down to the corner. Work on this one. I don't know how well you can see what I'm doing here. There we go. Oh. I think that pumpkin might be too warm. Maybe if I shred it up, actually. All right, and I'm just going to kind of, you can, if you see a little hole, you can also just keep stuffing things in there. And the crust will take it well. There. All right, and then I'm going to save some room to make the filling. I'm just going to put these in the fridge for a minute. While I do some pumpkin filling here. I'm going to try going for a fork. see how that goes. Yeah, it's already, the skin is so far off from it, I can just peel it. It's funny, pumpkin pie is one of my favorites, which I don't know very many other people that share that appreciation for it. But I'd rather do it with like winter squash, like butternut or buttercup. I just think pumpkin, I like it more in savory things. And if you had a little cream, that would be a great way to cool this down and kind of thin it out. I don't have that. Oh, I should have put those two crusts in the fridge. Yeah, these two would have been good to put in the fridge too, but I'm gonna try and go fast. All right, so here's a little bit of, I'm just smashing it down. I have some great kale here, so I'm gonna throw some of this in. I think that the flavors go together because they're kind of opposites. Brassica, like a broccoli-ish kind of flavor is what is happening with kale. Pumpkin is a sweeter winter squash flavor. So those two together are delicious. And then I'm gonna throw this tomato in as well. Just another opposite tart. When you think about food, sweet, spicy, sour, just hitting all of those flavor points and balancing them well makes everything delicious. Okay, that looks good. Just massage that kale with the pumpkin. And that will also help it from burning as well. All right. I'm going to skip the cheddar for that, but I am going to throw in some blue cheese and this tomato. You can tell it's like the last one because it's like struggling to ripen, and it's just not going to. It's already, this is just my last tomato from the summer. And I picked it green off the vine and just have been waiting and waiting. And I'm like, okay, you're getting cooked because you are not fresh eating. All right, just mash that in. Mashity mash. I'm gonna throw in some blue cheese. Nice and stinky. And I did put salt and pepper on the pumpkin. All right, here we go. It's nice and pretty. I'm gonna spread the other one out too, just to make sure I have enough for both. So just folding, folding. Some people get really into different designs with galettes. You can be as basic or as fancy as you want. And I'm sure there's all kinds of YouTube and TikTok videos that can show you how to do that. I'm more interested in just the flavors. I'm not very good at presentation, but I think that the just beautiful vegetables together look really, really good. All right, now we've got our little cuties done, and I'm going to make an egg wash. And this is kind of a nice thing to do. If you don't have an egg, you can use milk as well. And what we're gonna do is beat the egg and then just brush it over top all of these. And that will help the crust get a nice shine and a nice bite on it. And I'm also going to put cheddar cheese on top. And probably blue cheese on the other two. So, yeah, like I said, I like cheese. And it just kicks it up a notch too. These little brushes are very handy to have. If you don't have one of these, you could probably use like a tablespoon, or like an actual spoon, not a measuring spoon. And this also helps keep those little pleats that you made firmly in place. If you were doing a double crust dough, like one with a pie crust top, you'd want to poke holes in the crust before you do this step. And that helps everything, like the steam release from the crust as well. And it's just a special little thing you can do for your pies. And yeah, it's just, galettes are great because I feel like the crust to filling proportion is my style. I like having a little bit of crust with a lot of filling. And you can just like push it down into the little corners. Every bite is gonna have some filling in it, and it's not going to be just crust. Another nice thing is you can use the same pie crust recipe, 1.5 cups of flour with 6 tablespoons of butter, cold butter, and have just half a cup of water at the ready, and just add that tablespoon by tablespoon. And you could make these sweet, like a sweet one with like some berries in it. Nothing you probably couldn't do, you'd have to do a tart with like a mousse, like a lemon curd or something like that. But you can make really nice fruit pies with these as well. And crust does not need sugar in it. I'm sorry, but I feel like I like to add a nice, like, if I'm making a strawberry tart, I'll use strawberries with like raspberry jam mixed around them and then just put them in a crust like this. And you can add really good flavor without just straight sugar in it. Now we have a little scrambled egg for later. All right, so that's done, and I am gonna cheese them up. Like I said, I'll do a couple of them. And just stick it right there on the dough, and it holds really well. And then the ones with blue cheese, I'm just gonna leave plain. And that's it, and they just bake for, a whole one bakes for 35 minutes. These little guys, I'm gonna chuck them in 15. We are ready to pull our pies out of the oven. It's been about 15 minutes, and it's starting to smell very buttery in here. So you can see they look really brown on top. That means the egg white has cooked, and the crust touching it feels like crust does when it's cooked. I'm gonna pull that out. Because it's a granite countertop, I can put it straight down. And you can see the cheddar cheesy ones, how the crust kind of changed with the cheese baked into it. And then we've just got the egg wash, and you can see how it looks. It makes a big difference, that golden shine on top. So those are our simple winter harvest galettes, and thank you for joining us. And for all of you Farmacy participants, I hope this inspires you to make some delicious savory pies at home. And thanks for watching. Bye.